Hi, my name is Crystal Nelson. I'm an ergonomist at Ergo, and today I'm going to talk to you about how we can incorporate ergonomics into maybe a sewing room or a crafting room. So ergonomics comes into play in all areas of life, whether we're working or having fun at home. There are 5 things to consider in your sewing or crafting room. The first one is task lighting. The second one is a height adjustable workstation. The third thing to consider is a magnifying glass. The fourth item is the tilt of your sewing machine or your work surface. And then the last item to consider is job task rotation and considering all the items that you're doing while you are having fun sewing or crafting. Let's talk more about task lighting. When you think about a task light, that means it's a separate light that is illuminating your workspace. So we have the general overall ambient lighting that may be overhead, maybe something from a ceiling, but task lighting is a separate light that you can focus on the exact task that you're working on. So when you're considering a task light, you want to make sure that it's not too bright. You also want to make sure that it's not too dim either. So if it's too bright in comparison to your room lighting, that can cause some eye strain and eye fatigue. If it's too dim, of course, then it's really not going to help illuminate the job task that you're really working on. The second item with task lighting is to make sure that you position the light in the right location. So for me, if I were using a task light, I would want to make sure that the light is illuminating below my line of sight. You don't want the light to be above your line of sight because then your eyes have to process the light coming from the light plus focusing on the task at hand. So bring the light down below your line of sight, make sure you can't see any light bulbs, and then have it illuminate your space so there aren't any shadows either. Creating a shadow can create some difficulties with seeing all the small details. With the second item, height adjustable workstations, there are 3 things we can incorporate, or 3 common items that we can incorporate into our sewing room areas. So the first one is a height adjustable chair. The reason for this is because of the different positions that you are in throughout your sewing activities, whether you're at a sewing machine or you're sitting to mend a tear. All of these things can involve different heights that you prefer to be in. The goal for a seated position is for your hips to be at 90 to 100 degrees of flexion. And then if you're leaning forward for a task, you can tilt your seat pan forward, and that allows your knees to also be at 90 to 100 degrees. As far as your arm position, you want to make sure that most of the time your elbows are at 90 to 100 degrees. If you're looking at a fine or detailed task, then you can bring the process up to you a little bit, but try not to bring it up too far where your hands are closer to your chest than they are to your comfort zone. There are many different varieties for sewing machine tables that are height adjustable. So you can accommodate a standard sewing machine table and put some risers under it to make it into a standing position, or you can get an electric height adjustable sewing machine table so you can either stand or sit. So ideally you want to be able to sit for about 45 minutes for a task and then stand for anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. So if you were to get a height adjustable workstation, just be sure to not stand too long because standing is quite a strenuous task on our body. And then if you're working at an ironing board, you want to make sure that your height of the ironing board is at your comfort zone. So that's probably at your waist level, sometimes belly button level is what some people consider that. But most of the tasks with ironing should be at a location where your elbows are 90 to 100 degrees and the item is close to you. So you don't want to be reaching too far out to complete the task. Everything should be within your work area. The third thing to consider is your vision. So 100% of the time, our posture will always follow our vision. So what does that mean? If we can't see something clearly, our body is going to compromise a good posture by leaning forward and hunching over to see something a little bit better. But you can get into a habit of maintaining that upright posture using a magnifying glass to increase the size of the image that you're looking at, and also adding a magnifying glass with a light to better illuminate the space while magnifying it. So once that item, especially a detailed item, is now larger, you should be able to sit further back into your chair and see everything clearly without slouching or even slumping forward. Along the lines of vision and lighting is the tilt of our work surface. So if our sewing machine is parallel with the floor, Sometimes we may find ourselves having to crouch down a little bit to see better, especially where the needle is working. If you can add a platform that tilts your sewing machine slightly back. By tilting your sewing machine slightly back, then you can see your work surface a little bit better than as compared to when it's parallel with the floor. And then last but not least is your job task rotation. So think about all the things that you can complete throughout your day as they relate to sewing. So let's say you are working at your sewing machine, but you know you have ironing to do and you have cutting and measuring to do as well. So ideally you want to add a variety of these items into your day, and you don't want to lump everything together at once. So you don't want to be working at your sewing machine for 2 hours. You don't want to be then ironing for another 2 hours and then cutting and measuring for the last 2 hours. So now we're in a sustained position for 2 hours each. The goal is to be in a different position every 30 to 60 minutes. So find something to do where you can complete the task for a short period of time, move on to another task, and then to another workstation, and just continuously rotate your job tasks throughout your workday so you don't end up repeatedly using a muscle group. So our muscle groups do need a break, so then by adding different job tasks to the day, we can give each muscle group the rest that they need. If you have specific questions about your occupation or how ergonomics plays a role into your work routine, feel free to give us a shout and we'd be happy to answer your questions. Also be sure to like our social media pages, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and visit our website for more blogs. Thank you.